Okay, so as we know, we have invited Pia. She presented herself already to this meeting, and I'm very glad that you could make it, Pia, that you could dedicate some time to this meeting. And we invited you for a particular topic. It is in our general meetings where we want to try to understand better what actually Pressenza stands for and what does journalism for peace and non-violence mean. And as it's a very broad topic, we take like different subtopics to understand it better. And today we were very interested about the topic of the role of the women in the social movement in South America and maybe in the whole world. And I was hoping that you can tell us something about that, Pia.
Yes, I'm glad to talk about that, because if we look at the story of the world, this is a very, very, very long story of discrimination. And if we reduce the time frame and we go back only 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we see that in underground movements in Latin America, little by little, it was formed a sort of wave of feminist consciousness. But nobody was really noticing it until in Argentina started the movement Ni Una Menos, no? To protest against the continuous killing, daily killing of a woman, of some women. And this movement, Ni Una Menos, expressed itself with such a clear image, with such a clear decision, that spread around all America, I would say also in North America, but in South America and the Caribbean very strongly. And this wave of saying, stop it. I mean, no more. We do not want any more, no other woman killed, no? Ni una menos means that. And each day and each moment in which one woman would be killed, all the others would go to the streets. Was astonishing, was impressing, was enormous. Yeah. And so from then on, during these last 2 years, many different expressions of feminist protest came out, not only Ni Una Menos. In Chile, the law to approve or not abortion was discussed exactly in that same period, 2 years and 3 months ago, more or less. We were campaigning for the presidential and parliamentary election, and that divided all the people who was in favor and who was against. And of course, women were in favor, also because was a law very restrictive that allowed abortion only in 3 cases, in 3 kind of circumstances. It was not a free choice of women. So this gave fuel to a lot of movements pro-abortion and pro-women's decisions, that we should take our decisions as we would like to. Simultaneously, in Peru also, a very strong feminist movement appeared, and it was specializing in different aspects. For instance, many in all Latin America, many different aspects were specializing, like abortion or Ni Una Menos, or for instance, in Peru, the descendants of African people in South America. The women, Afro-Americanas, were organized and they became thousands. And nobody knew. It was an invisible conflict, the one of the racist conflict that women suffer, yeah, and so on, up to the point that nowadays, if I say yes, of course I'm a feminist, they ask me what kind of feminist, because there are many kinds. No, for instance, personally, I share and participate in a movement of Chilean feminist writers of books. Yeah, one of the requisites is that at least you have published a book. Yeah, not referring in the argument to women, but you have done it. So you have overpassed a lot of barriers that allow women to publish, because it's difficult, the road. It's difficult to be able to publish for anyone, but for women more. Yeah. Okay, so there are nowadays many small or big cells or movements that organize themselves, and the confluence of all this diversity of all kinds of women, the confluence is, of course, in the 8th March. Yeah. On March 8th, there were, in my city, in Santiago, was impossible to walk because all the streets were full of women. From the corner of the house, when you wanted to go to the manifestation, already there was 1,000 of people. No, students from 13 on, I would say, until old ladies that still are claiming to make truth on the torture lived in dictatorship days, that have lost their sons, that have lost their nieces, and that don't know where they are. I mean, all kind of people, of women, yeah, and many men that are supporting these different causes, yeah, these different movements. So it's a wave that is becoming a sort of enormous sea, enormous current, yeah, very active movement. From Pressenza, what we have done is to make a lot of reports, a lot of articles, a lot of photo reportage. We have all kinds of expressions. If you look at the site in Spanish, for instance, and you put, I don't know, indigenous woman, you will find a lot. If you put ni una menos, if you put whatever you, abortion, whatever, Afro-Americans, descendant, no, or whatever, you will find different ways of fighting against the violence and discrimination that more than half of humanity is suffering, because that's the thing. The woman's claim for parity is not just something that occurs to anyone. It's more than half of the population that we are. So the numbers are also very important, because why we stand for this, to stop this kind of discrimination and not to stop, well, I don't know, we stand for many kinds of claims like this, but the woman's one is so huge that if you start talking with another woman and you ask her, have you ever been discriminated and why? What was the reason? I have never known one that has said to me, no, I'm not. I mean, or because of an economic inequality, or because we are looked as less intelligent, less clever, less able to do our work, for instance, or because of not so strong as men, or especially sexually abused, no? or raped or killed, as many women every day. So, okay, the list is very long, no? But for instance, in this group of women that are writers, they are charged more to produce a book than a man. And in the book fairs, they do not have the same stand and the same position as the male writers. I mean, it's crazy, but it's like that. It's crazy. Yeah. The National Prize on Literature that the government gives every year has almost always been given to male. Yeah. Isabel Allende got one, and very few Chilean writers, women. But they claim, why don't they shift? And they give one year and the other one the other. But it's not like that. Yeah, because of the influence. Well, anyway, what does Pressenza does? We cover all these different types of discrimination, but we also go with them in an activist way. Why? Because many of the women that we are in Pressenza in South America, we share the same objectives. So if there is a claim for a free abortion, I will be there because I believe it's necessary that we decide what we do with our bodies. So it's not just to cover journalistically the manifestation, but because I want to be there personally as an activist also. No? So many of these themes are mixed in the sense that we participate because we want to, but also we give a coverage in journalistic way. Always with a regard that is to claim for parity. We are not asking to be the ones with privilege, no? We are asking just parity. That's the minimum, and that's the fair that we claim. Okay, but also we have noticed that there are several areas where still there is a male very important power, and there is no movements that claim for that parity, as it is, for instance, science. Yeah, we have noticed that in science, male are very well placed, women work a lot, but there is not any movement that claims for parity in the field of sciences. So when we decided about a documentary, a new documentary that Pressenza would do for the Chinese television, we resolved to do it in that field. How does women take a stand on science? How do they express themselves in a field that is so much organized by a rationality and a way of expression that is very suitable for male positions, and controlled by, usually in South America at least, by males. And we produced this wonderful documentary that you could see it in English. We have in German only the trailer, but when we will have the chance to project it in any TV station in Germany, we will put the subtitles also in German. For the moment, we have it in English or in Spanish or in Italian, but you could see it in English because it's called, well, in Spanish, it's called Ellas sienten que amanecerá. I don't know how you translate it to German, but in English, it's they sense it will be dawn, no? And it's the story of 5 different women from different countries. An astronomist in Chile, an architect in Peru, a volcanologist in Ecuador, a neurologist in Colombia, and an oceanologist or something like that in Mexico, okay? And these 5 women tell their story, how they were able to work in parity and with the necessary recognition in spite of being women. And they did it, and they are very happy. And each one of them went further than any other human being, opening a new possibility for everybody. Yeah, a new way of looking at life, and with discoveries that could change all our lives. Like, for instance, the Chilean one is looking for another planet with the same characteristics that the Earth, that if she finds it, all our lives will change because we will have another home, another possible home where to go. Yeah, and so on. Each of these women are producing scientific discoveries that changes the life of anyone in this planet. So it's a very interesting way of looking at it, that the claim for parity is not for nothing else than to do life better. Yeah. We have held also as Pressenza several events with Sabine and Reto. We were together in New York last year, where in Central University we held an event on, it was called Weapons, Women, Welfare. Yeah, on nuclear weapons, on the women's discrimination, and on welfare with the universal basic income. And in women, we invited this poetry, this woman that makes poetries from IT, very special woman, and also an academic from Colombia that works in New York, an academic woman from the university. And we shared a moment of, how could I say, of denounce and proposals. What the poetry was denouncing things, and the academic woman was reflecting and proposing what to do to overpass this discrimination. Well, these kind of events that are very simple, if you want, because it has 2 or 3 people talking very simply, but convoke several and creates a little news, create a reflection, create a moment in which everybody thinks how we could improve this situation, which are the proposals, how we could go forward. Okay, aside from these 2 things I wanted to tell you, the documentary and the event in New York, we are giving priority to this issue in our articles, in our interviews, looking for demonstrative effects. That means little facts that could change everything if they get some diffusion, no? For instance, yes, I have interviewed, for instance, Federica Mata, who is a wonderful sculptor. She lives half year in Paris and half a year in New York. And all what she does in the sculptures is sculptures that you can go into and you can go around them, full of color, very full of hope. And what she is saying with her sculptures is that the future will be different. So will be much joyful, much more including. So if you interview someone like that and you publish on that, you create an atmosphere which is favorable to such change, a positive change. And in that sense, we are creating a new culture that we call it a demonstrative effect, because little by little it can be replied, it can be taken by others and multiply. No? Well, I don't know, maybe we could dialogue more and go through questions to make it simpler. This is a bit what I wanted to say as presentation.
Well, I think thank you, Pia. It's a great introduction or elaboration of the topic. And yes, I think there are some opinion or questions, sure, that we would like to address to Pia. I know that these virtual meetings are always a little bit difficult to overcome this step to enter in an open discussion, but feel free to express yourself.
Yeah, we have the limitation of the language, because I do not speak English usually. You don't also. You speak German or Spanish, but but not English. Anyway, I wanted to tell also another small thing. We have lived together with Reto. We were in China 2 years ago, and when we discussed with this woman about the possibility of doing or not a documentary that Pressenza would do for the Chinese television, and we proposed them to do something on women, she was very happy, and she said one phrase which I never will forget. She said, yeah, fantastic if you do something regarding women, because in Latin America, she knew my continent much better than me. In Latin America, the main force for change is women, are women, no? The principal force that is pushing for the changes are the women. And there I realized that it is so, that she was absolutely right. Because in this present moment, we do not have very much force on the left or on the right on politics. We do not have in South America movements as Friday for Future. They are very small. Greta is a European girl. In South America, we have more some indigenous movements for the environment, but they are not as important as the environmental movements you're having in Europe. Instead, women are caring on environment, are claiming for environment, are claiming for justice in terms of social, the diminution of the social gap, also for a more fair economy, and especially for equality, for dignity. No. So yes, this Chinese woman knew our continent better than us, because the woman's wave of strong movements is the most the major energy that is moving here for changes. Yeah.
Anybody would like to say something
or ask?
Can I?
Yeah. Yes, Gabi.
Pia, thank you very much for giving us this overview about the situation in South America. I am 62 years old now, and what you present, this feminist wave you are describing for Latin America, I experienced that when I was around in between 20 and 30 years old. So this wave was in Europe, especially in Germany, some 30 years ago. So now it is very interesting for me to see all this power that is being assembled in South America, And you're right, and this Chinese lady's right. It's the women who are building up peace and well-being, and it's not the energy of male. Sorry, Reto. Huh?
No problem.
You
I'm
might
very
be
much aware of this.
you might be the exception. So I have two things. One thing is I have gone through this experience of feminist power and everything, and uh, I see and I have observed in Europe, especially in Germany, that this feminist power and energy moved into spiritual development. Yes, spiritual development, and also getting power from spiritual rituals. I'm not talking about the Christian church, not at all. Yeah, I'm talking about pagan rituals, Celtic rituals. I'm talking about shamanic rituals. I'm talking about a spirituality that is not tied to any church, and it is that comes out of the heart, and maybe and most out of the heart of the women. So what I see, and the young girls, they are 18, 19 years, Maria, Chiara, so young girls, they have to, I would love to listen from them if it is also true for them that we are standing in another point of development in Europe. I don't know the reality of Anita and Chiara and Maria, but I was in Chile in December and January, and I did with a whole group of women there who were also rescatistas en la primera línea and very active in this revolutionary movement. I did a spiritual ceremony with them, and they were so thankful, and they were so they felt it was kind of an initiation for them to be able to get energy from other sources also, from a spiritual source, from the divine feminine. So this is my question to you. And I understand Pressenza also, it's not only for peace and non-violence, but I feel that there is also some secular spirituality that feeds the movement. So is that
Yes.
correct for Chile?
Yes, Gabby, I want to take your wonderful explanation, agreeing absolutely, because I am 67 and I also lived as you 30 years ago, also in South America, a feminist awakening, yeah? Together with an epoch in which many new movements arise, no? But that wave of 30 years ago transformed itself, as you said, and there was like very subtle feminism, no? And it transformed into a spiritual and ecological current. I would say that goddess inspired the protection of our earth, of our natural resources, and also the development of new forms of spirituality far away from the churches and the so-called spiritual power, which is very male shaped also, no? So in these 30 years, a new generation grew up, no? And our generation was, developed not only spirituality without any kind of institution, also the protection of our natural resources and the land itself, the goddess mother, the earth, and also in South America, the indigenous cultures emerge with this figure and converge in this same new spirituality. No? I personally participate in a new spirituality created by an Argentinian, which in another moment we could talk. Is not the theme of today, but far away from any kind of formality and of any kind of institution, no? In this sense that our generation built. But now there is a new generation, as Chiara or Anita or Chris or Mona, the lovely daughter of Sabine, no? Who have all the advantages of this three-dimensional research process that we have carried on with feminism, with spirituality, and with ecology, but also they have had a courage to put up in a different language to make explicit what the oppression they are living and the violence they are experimenting. You have to, for instance, a good example of this is a Chilean group that produces performances called Las Tesis. I don't know if you have ever heard about Las Tesis. Las Tesis is 4 women from Valparaíso, that's a port in Chile, that used to do theater. But since the social unrest started here from October last year, they couldn't put up a theater, a play in a theater, but they did it in a street. And they did it as a performance denouncing the abuse and the violence that women feel every day, with a very strong language. And this was recorded and it was communicated, these are the ones, all over the world, yeah? In almost every country, even in Muslim countries, this was performed last year. And they became internationally like a symbol of the rebellion against the violence that our bodies live in any street, in any bus, in anywhere. Yeah. So the young generation has another courage, is much more, has much more resolution, I would say. Because we had also 30 years ago, but nowadays it has a very strong message, very, very strong message.
This is the reality of Chile. I experienced that because I also had very young women as friends, and they really say, we are not afraid.
Yeah.
What about Anita and Chiara and all the other girls in Pressenza? Do you feel like you have the same, you feel the same way? Or do you feel also oppressed by male? What about you?
Yeah, so maybe I can say something about this. Yeah, for long years, like in my childhood, I never realized really there was a difference between women and men, because especially in school, often girls were advantaged or seen as more clever. So so I really had actually no connection to feminism in my childhood and never experienced a necessity for that. But then when I learned, when I grew up and I learned about history, and then I learned through that the appreciation of that, what I could experience it in my childhood, because I have to thank women rights movements that were in the last century that, yeah, I could experience this childhood like it happened, and I had all the advantages in school, and I would never been seen like minor to to boys, because it's actually in school these days in Germany the other way around. And yeah, now I'm really learning more about the movement in Latin America through all the articles I get to translate here, and I really admire it how this spirit is created through the expression of art. And yeah, I mean, it all depends from this system. The problem is not only that there's this problem of discrimination, the problem is also that there is seen no problem, of course, by the male persons, because yeah, they say everything is normal, everything is okay. But now with all these movements, they can't say everything is okay when, yeah, people are protesting on the streets. The streets are full, and yeah, I think also now the problem gets to realized in Latin America, and especially in Chile, because yeah, now especially in the case of sexual abuse or many women are silent about this, and now when there's this movement, they get the courage to speak up. They get the courage to tell what's happened, because yeah, they feel the change. And yeah, I think this change has a great psychological effect, which can be the one that finally changes society rather indirectly than the movement rather demand something and the politics follow. And that this would be also my question, which consequences can maybe be expected from male persons, governments, or politicians in Chile? I mean, is there any hope that there is a change soon, or building up psychological base that is needed for a change, the movement, the situation of the movement right now?
As I said at the beginning, Chiara, this country is an extreme country. I mean, it's perfectly quiet and nothing happens until the moment that when it happens, nothing will stay the same, no? It's a country with earthquakes, it's a country with tsunamis, that in the natural atmosphere, but also socially is the same, no? So the influence of all these movements, the social unrest from last year, and also the pandemic situation in which we are, cannot not produce consequences and many changes, but I cannot foresee exactly how that will be, because the nice thing of the changes is that are unforeseeable. I mean, that you cannot planify, you cannot make a plan for them. They just happen. This thing of the last thesis, was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, nobody could have think that something like that will be going around all the streets everywhere, in the stadiums everywhere, and would create such a consciousness, no? Many people, many women of my age have started now to realize that they have been abused, but they had never wanted to assume that fact. And as in the States with Me Too movement, also here, a juridical juridical procedure, you know, when you go to the court, started with thousands of women that are claiming that 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, somebody abused them, yeah? And they had not realized it before Las Tesis did all what they did. So yes, I think all this will have enormous consequences, but basically will change the culture. And that is very positive. Will change the way we relate to the other one, will change what we call that is private and what can be denounced, even if it is private, you know, because it's a violence, it's an oppression, it's something one shouldn't treat the other one that way. So here I agree with Gabi. There is a new way of spirituality when you realize that your energy and then your body, because the body is the one that keeps your energy, needs the same treatment as the other one's body and energy. And that you cannot violate the other one because you destroy her or his energy, yeah? So there is a lot of things in our culture that are changing, but they are still not visible, I would say. Still not visible, no?
May I say something that's
Sure.
related to Chiara? Because I think I'm from Germany as well, and I have observed that feminism and so on is, I think, still a big thing here. It just depends on where you're focusing on. So in school, you're usually not, confronted with a lot of sexism or so. But if you dig deeper, there are certain social classes, there are certain, maybe certain hobbies or so where you can actually face a lot of sexism just because you're female, for instance, you may be facing harsh consequences. For instance, when I was a child, I was always doing sports. And this is a football, for instance. It's a pretty male domain, actually. And there you can face tremendous, well, it's the typical sports you should do in order to face all those typical cliches. And I've never been to Chile, and it's super interesting to listen to all those things, but I'm pretty sure that machoism or so is still a problem in each and every society. I can speak for India, for many other countries. It's just a different sort of machoism. But the true problem that underlies that is still the same. Yeah, so it still depends on, you just need to focus on different things, and sometimes machism sort of turns out in a different way, but it's still there. It would be a lie to say that everything's done here in Germany. We're not yet there, no. But thank you very much. It was a very interesting.
Consider, Chris, that to change what we are trying to change. Mm-hmm. We are trying to change a culture that started in the Bronze era.
Yeah.
Before human beings were able to write or read.
Yes.
I mean, it's all the history is a machist history.
Yes.
So it will take some time.
Yeah. Oh, we got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if the others can support that. I don't know if maybe you can share what you've been experiencing, Anita or Maria or Sabine. I don't know how you experienced Germany as a country, or Europe, or wherever you are right now. Do you think that Germany is a sexistic country? Sexistish? You know what I mean? Country, or what would you say?
I think I have to agree with you, because mostly you're not aware of it, so you think everything's fine, but if you dig deeper or think about it and you get the awareness, you realize, oh, there are a lot of things happening which are not okay. So it's like earnings, females mostly earn much less than males, or even
20%. It is said to be 20%, depending on the domain you're in.
Yeah, mostly women are working in less paid jobs. For social sector jobs, they're mostly very bad paid jobs, and so on, or in daily life. So it's very It's not very obvious all the time, but if you think about it, it gets obvious.
As you said, that people who are working in the social sector or so are like less paid and are often women. I think this also shows a lot about our society, because we don't appreciate those jobs actually the way we should, because it's very important, for instance, to have someone who's taking care of the retired people in elderly or in old people's homes, you know. We just don't appreciate that the way we should. So it's actually a sort of this bronze age thing that's still somehow there, the attitude towards those things. Yeah, as well.
Oh yeah,
So it's very interesting to write about it and to, in Pressenza in German, to be able to go deeper so as to let people know about these things that are not so obvious. No?
And when we are at this point, I just want to use the opportunity to make a little bit publicity. As you all know, I mean, you can feel free in any moment to step out of the role of translating into the role of actually writing for Pressenza. And I actually would urge you to do this if you feel the motivation and yeah, to step over this, because I think there is a lot to write and I'm sure you have a lot to say.
Also, you could organize some events, even small, to see with some friends the documentary regarding the woman. This one of the scientists, I would say, we have it in English, but you can understand it with any German, I think, in English. And have afterwards a little conversation or a small debate regarding how is in science or in areas that are so important, how is the role of women? So we have that movie as a contribution, and little, like an evening with 5 or 10 friends to take a look to it and discuss after. It's a very nice opportunity.
Yeah, I think I would really look forward to watching this documentary. So it's found on Pressenza also.
Yeah, there is a file called documentaries in the home of Pressenza, and there you find all our documentaries. We are in this moment putting the subtitles in German for the trailer. Yeah. And it's nice because the movie starts with the feminist wave of manifestations. It starts from there, explains it, and then goes to pick up these particular figures, you know? And,
Yeah,
and you
cool.
travel all around Latin America going with the documentary because it was produced in 5 different countries.
Maybe you remember we had in the translator list, we had this brainstorming because it wasn't easy to translate the title of the documentary to German.
We arrived to the following, I will tell you, to the following title for the documentary. Wait, I'm looking for it. Where is it? I will not be able to say it in German. Okay,
yeah, we found the solution in this translator group. It was
yeah?
The proposal was coming from here. This is what I say.
It's
yes.
it is Sie wissen, dass die Sonne aufhört, or something like that. No, you find it in this group?
Yes, we made a brainstorming and
fantastic.
Yes.
I also, yeah, I maybe would try to watch it in Spanish because, yeah, I've watched del cable in another Spanish, of course, but I'm used to this like feministic power in Spanish. I really like to see it also in the
fantastic.
passionate language, I think.
Great. Really great. Congratulations.
Okay, is there any other question or statement that anybody would like to express or ask?
Yeah, I would like to ask Pia if there is since I know that the situation in Chile is very heavy. Just some days ago, a girl, 16 years old girl, was killed in Ambar, and and the women there are very depressed and very shocked also. So, Pia, can we help somehow? Do you have an idea or how we can help?
I don't have any idea on how, really. I think always it's very useful to be able to talk these kind of things with people that do not live here, so you get another perspective. For me, it has been a very good moment to share this moment with you. And if you talk with your Chilean friends, for sure you will give them a new perspective from her to look at these things. The Amber girl situation was really heavy, terrible. And yes, these things occurred all through history, everywhere. So we are in this dark moment. But we have also a terrible government. Economically, it's a very difficult situation. The indigenous Machi, the spiritual leader of the Mapuche community, is dying and is trying to accelerate his death with a strike.
He's fasting.
Fasting, right? Yeah. I mean, are very obscure days, and we are locked down still. I mean, we are starting in the first phase of opening the lockdown, but that has bring 1/3 of the population remain without jobs. I mean, it's a very difficult situation. That's why I didn't want to talk at the beginning about all that, because it's heavy.
Yeah, but you know, this Ambar doesn't have to do with the virus or the lockdown.
No. It's a normal femicide that give rise to the movement Ni Una Menos. No, it's that kind of thing. Yes, the situation of Amber. What you can do, you can keep writing about, push this Pressenza in German, helping people there to get to know, translate things, what you're doing. If you practice spirituality that could communicate well-being, you could try to send some positive energy and well-being. But aside from that, I think we are in a moment in which all humanity, complete thanks to this pandemic situation, is reflecting deeply on which are the changes that we should introduce to our style of life, to our communities, to our countries, to our continents. Yes, Chris?
Do you really think, I mean, this is a process that may be ongoing for a little bit longer, and I surely see that there's a wave coming, but I think that the crucial element you may need in order to empower women or to make them stand up more and to really give them power is actually knowledge What you would need to do is you would need to empower them with sports, with education, with languages, with anything they can do, because then they will be more independent, you know. I'm not sure if a lot of, especially the poor people in Chile, I'm not that familiar with Chile or like the social structure, but I may assume that a lot of people, especially the poorer ones, don't have the chance because they actually do not, they can't even touch the water they want to drink. That's the point. Right? So I think the long-term solution may be to empower women by knowledge and by self-confidence, by sports or whatever it is, you know, in order to like really get that thing going. To write about it, yes, but also to like maybe start educational initiatives or anything like that, to start sports projects, whatever it is, to really, yeah, give them the assets they need in order to like become self-confident, to fight, to whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking what Gabby could do from there.
So, okay. Oh, yeah. You know,
but here there are a lot of social projects and a movement, a huge movement for free education. Yeah. And we are fighting for that and giving coverage to all that. But from Germany, what you could do from Germany, I'm thinking, no? Yes, and the dialogue with a different perspective, but also let Germans know about, because it's very nice that in Pressenza in German, we publish things from many places, not only from Germany, but that gives a coverage to this situation.
Do you know any of those educational initiatives or people that are especially focusing on educating women? Do you have some projects or some examples you may want to share or show?
Yeah, I could publish in the next weeks something about. Yes.
Or you can just send a link or so, anything, just a name, so I could Google it or so, because I'd be really interested in reading about it.
Okay. Yes.
Maybe it's not so easy to Google it because not all the initiatives have home pages.
Yeah.
For example, the young lady I know, she gives extra classes for children in yoga and to give them more what you are saying, more self-esteem and more calmness. My friend, she's also working in educational projects. The educational level in Chile is quite high compared to other, I wouldn't even say this is an underdeveloped country.
Yeah.
Even that. So the educational level is quite high. And still, you know, the machismo is so strong that I mean, they don't even, they don't,
You know, an idea, Reto, came to my mind since Madeleine speaks German, and she participates very actively in the movement for Afro-descendant women in Peru. Maybe some of you could interview her in German regarding that movement, which is very interesting in Peru.
I think that's a very, very nice idea, and it's also a start. Maybe if you allow a little bit to come to close up to this meeting, and for obvious reason, I held back also with my opinion about the issue, but I would like to make a final comment. I mean, for me, this topic, besides of the topic of empowerment of women and parity, so the same, to have the same rights and possibility between the two genders, which is important enough in itself. The topic for me goes a little bit also beyond that, which is a certain aspect that was also mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, as kind of culture, an aspect that is in the whole society and in every human being, is about to care about human life, about solidarity, to care about like the welfare of everyone. And I think with the women's rights not respected, also this aspect in the world and in the society is very, very underdeveloped. no? And for me, look, I mean, you can say now it is because of the topic that I'm the only man here in this conversation. But no, it isn't, because we had all the other topics and it was the same average. And I found it also very, very typical that when it's coming about writing articles for Pressenza, it's usually men. When it's about translating article, it's usually the women. So for me, it's really an ask to you to help to develop this aspect, this new culture, and to start to write, to make interviews. Maybe you want to build like a group of people who want to empower each other, you know, and do that. And I think this would also organize events, whatever you find the most appropriate. But I think this is a big need that we have, which is a very important stone in the development of a new, better and human society.
Well said, Reto.
Yeah, I had a lot of
Yes,
time to think about all this.
Very well said. Very well said.
All right, I just finished now the official part and the recording, which doesn't mean that you have to disconnect now.